Valorant is half a decade old, and we know all their tricks at this point. A new bundle will come out, it has upgrades or it doesn't, and then we move on. And occasionally we will get agents, maps, and whatever this garbage was supposed to be. However, at one point, this was all really exciting stuff because we hadn't been conditioned to it yet. Oh my god. This is so cool, dude. And when you think of things that we are unsatisfied with on Valorant right now, you gotta admit that the first time that they ever did it, it was pretty cool. I'm Justin, and this is every first in Valorant. Shout out to this person for coming up with this video idea. All of my subscribers are really smart. But what was the first finisher on Valorant? Depending on how you look at this question, this could either be Reaver or Prime. During the beta of Valorant, Reaver was the only collection to have a finisher at all. And once Valorant was officially out, Reaver wouldn't be back in the game until November of 2020, which left it to Prime in June of 2020 to be the first bundle to have a finisher. And something you'll notice in this video is that Prime and Reaver are going to be a first for a lot of things. On the topic of finishers, what was the first ever interactive finisher on Valorant? Every other bundle that comes out today has a finisher that you can do stuff with. But back then, this was really groundbreaking stuff. And while some of you may guess that the Champions Collection was the first to ever do this, on September 8th, 2021, the Spectrum Collection was the first ever bundle to have a finisher that you could interact with. Did you catch that? A lot of people actually don't know that this is an interactable finisher. When you get the Spectrum finisher and you inspect the item that you're using, this light show will happen. And when you stop inspecting, it just goes away. But you could always just start inspecting your Spectrum stuff again to make the lights come back. But is this really the first interactive finisher on Valorant? Because on July 8th, 2021, the Ruination bundle came out. And when you get the Ruination finisher, the eyes will actually follow you around.
Don't worry, I got this right here.
See, the eyes follow you around as you move, aka it's interactable. But what do you think? Is this the first interactable finisher or is Spectrum? Depending on who you ask, Spectrum may not have the first interactable finisher. But one thing Spectrum is the first at is being the first ever bundle in Valorant to play music. And here's a fun fact for you. Every Spectrum item plays that iconic song at a different pitch. There's a reason this is one of the most goated bundles of all time. But let's talk more about finishers. Today on Valorant, if a skin has variants, we expect the finisher to also have variants. But what was the first bundle to do this? If we're talking about the Valorant beta, then Reaver would take that place. But Reaver did go away after the beta and it was re-released around 4 months later without those finisher variants. Meaning that in terms of the live game, the first ever bundle on Valorant to have finisher variants goes to the Forsaken collection. One being the classic Sovereign finisher and the at the time new Forsaken finisher. I would personally argue that the Forsaken bundle is a little bit incomplete because it didn't come with any variants besides the Sovereign variant and the default Forsaken variant. So you could maybe argue that the first ever bundle to have finisher variants could go to Gaia's Vengeance. Gaia's Vengeance is the first truly unique bundle with variants and finishers to match those variants. So with all of that in mind, which do you guys think came first? Let's take a step away from finishers and now talk about peripheral items on Valorant. These days we have phones and teddy bears and all this kooky stuff on the game. But back in my day, all we had was sprays, cards, and buddies. The first ever animated spray that we could ever have was actually given to us for free. It's the Pulse Check spray that you get from Sage's agent unlocks. To refine this a little more, the first ever Battle Pass spray that was animated was the Salt Shaker spray from Episode 1, Act 1, which was also the first Battle Pass. And the hardest. But what about the first ever premium animated spray? That goes to none other than the Oni bundle. This was the first ever animated spray that you could purchase. And it's also the first ever bundle that I purchased on Valorant. What about the first ever spray to have unique sounds? That would be the Octo Attack 2 spray from the Ignition Act 3 Battle Pass. And the first ever premium spray with sounds was, of course, the Zed Spectrum spray. And of course, the most important peripheral item is the buddies. The first ever reactive buddy in Valorant is the Celestial Ox Buddy, which came out in 2021 during Episode 2. Most definitely a more rare item in Valorant. The first ever buddy to have variants is the Team Ace Buddy. This one really surprised me because I would have guessed that this happened a lot earlier on than it did, but this came out in Episode 4, Act 2, all the way back in 2022. Do you have any of these buddies? Because there's quite a few people who probably don't have the next few items we're going to talk about. What was the first truly exclusive bundle to come out in Valorant? Could it be Champions or could it be Arcane? We both know that it's at least one of these bundles. As well, both of these collections came out in the same week, but which came first? The first Champions collection came out on November 24th, 2021, and the Arcane Sheriff was released on November 18th, 2021, meaning that the Arcane Sheriff was the first ever exclusive bundle in all of Valorant that never came back from that point on. And for those of you who don't know, the Arcane Sheriff came out as a promotional item celebrating the launch of Riot's Netflix series Arcane, which premiered just 2 weeks earlier on November 6th. Until this day, the Arcane Sheriff is one of the most popular items in Valorant skin history. But now it's time for a really exciting part. First, animations. The first ever bundle to have unique pullout animations in Valorant goes to Elderflame, which also was the first ever Ultra Edition skin collection on Valorant. But this bundle only covers a Vandal, Judge, Frenzy, and Operator. What about the first pullout animation for everything else? It's a little complicated, but there are some answers. Let's go in order as best as we can. Singularity 2.0 is the first ghost to have pullout animations. The first Sheriff with a unique pullout is of course Arcane. For the Spectre, it's Protocol 781A. The Bulldog is Protocol again. For the Phantom, it's Singularity 1.0. The first Marshal is Neo Frontier. The first Ares is yet again Singularity 1.0. And Blastex is the first for the Odin. And you may have noticed that we are missing a few with this one, and that's because it's sort of hard to determine what the first animation is for something depending on your criteria for it. For the most part, everything in Valorant has generally the same pullout, so I did specifically try to find items in Valorant that had entirely new pullouts, like Elderflame for instance. Something that will be easier to answer though is what had the first reload animations. There's a lot more room to breathe with this one, so let's give it a shot. As stated earlier, Prime and Reaver will be a first for a lot of these reloads, including the classic Spectre, Guardian, and Vandal. And specifically remember, we are talking about the actual game itself, not beta. Because if you're playing on beta, then the Reaver Vandal is the first with the reload animation. But Reaver does have some first, like the first reload with the Sheriff. Actually, that is wrong. Singularity did have the first reload in the live game, because Singularity came out in October, whereas Reaver came out in November. I'm trying my best to give as accurate of answers as possible. What about the reload animation for everything else? Take this with a grain of salt and pay attention. For the Shorty, it is arguably Prelude to Chaos, the Elderflame Frenzy, really surprisingly, the Reaver Ghost, the Prelude Stinger, which is one of my favorite stingers of the game, the Prime 2.0 Bucky, which completely caught me off guard, the Elderflame Judge, the Nocturnal Bulldog, the Prime Phantom, the Kuronami Marshal has a really crazy reload, the Elderflame Operator, or the Reaver Operator if you count beta, and lastly for the Odin, Prime 2.0. What was really surprising is that some of these items were the only items in Valorant to have unique reloads. If you're wondering what the first premium or higher tier item in Valorant is, here all of them are. Episode 1 on Valorant was a really special time, and at some point I am going to do a video about the many collections that came out during that episode. Here's an interesting one though. What about the first inspect? What is truly the first unique inspect for all Valorant items is the entire Origin bundle. And likewise as well for all of these items, it's the first eternal inspect that you can just hold forever. This is truly an underrated bundle in my opinion, especially because this was premium edition when it came out, meaning that the price of the Origin bundle is low enough that it can be in your night market, despite having all those cool features. Unlike the first ever premium edition bundle that had no upgrades at all, which would go to Ego, but in its defense, this was episode 1, and Ego did give us something that was a first in Valorant. Ego was the first bundle in Valorant to have melee variants, and it really makes you wonder if that's the reason this bundle is premium edition. Something that isn't premium edition is the Prime Gaming items that Valorant used to have. The first Prime Gaming buddy was the Netter Treader buddy. The first Prime Gaming spray was the Clip It spray. And the first and only Prime Gaming skin that came out was the Wayfinder Shorty. This one is one of my most favorites for sure. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if I did get something wrong in this video or I missed something, do let me know down below in the comment section. I missed you guys a lot. As always, I'm Justin and you're not. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one.